In today's video, I'm going to be diving into the exact strategies that I use to avoid and respond to any IP complaints that I get in my 7-figure Amazon business. If you're new to the channel, my name's Warner Fields from Fields of Profit. I'm a full-time Amazon seller, and I know that IP complaints are a really big issue for a lot of Amazon sellers out there because they can do pretty significant damage to your Amazon account if you don't know how to properly avoid them and also respond to IP complaints when you do end up getting it. It is part of the business. I still get IP complaints in my business, even though I do my very best to avoid them. So it's very important that we're going to talk about how to avoid them, but also how to respond to them in this video. And if you're not familiar with what an IP complaint actually is, basically when we're selling on Amazon, we are legally allowed to sell these products in new condition on Amazon, but the brands themselves, it's well within their power to take us off of these listings if they want us to do so. It's Amazon's playground. We have to play by their rules. And the IP complaint system is actually part of what makes Amazon such a great platform for all kinds of sellers. So it's really not quite as a negative thing as you might think. So in essence, let's say you try to sell a certain brand on Amazon and that brand is already selling their products on Amazon. If you go out and try to buy that item, sell it on Amazon, the chances that you're going to receive an IP complaint on your account are very, very high. And essentially what's going to happen when you do receive an IP complaint is they're going to ping your account. You're going to have a little bit of a mark on your account health, and then you're also going to have the opportunity to go in there and resolve the issue, upload any invoices or receipts that you do have to resolve the issue. So we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of that in this video, but if you're brand new to selling on Amazon or you're new to the channel and you want to get plugged into a community of over 30,000 Amazon sellers for completely free, you're going to find a link down there in the description for our completely free Amazon seller Discord community. There's a ton of free information in there and I would love to see you in there, but let's go ahead and jump into the video. So let's go ahead and jump straight into it here, and I'll show you a couple of my favorite methods for making sure that when we're buying products, we're going to be safe from any IP complaints, anything like that. So in this case, I went ahead and pulled up this item here. It's probably an example of the simplest way I know how to avoid an IP complaint, and that's just simply looking up here. We see the brand name of this product is Eva NYC, and then right down here on the sold by section of the Amazon seller page, we can see it ships from Amazon, but it's sold by Eva NYC Hair Care, which means that this brand obviously is selling this product right there. So that means that this brand is heavily policing these listings. They're going to be all over this because it only makes sense, right? If you were this company and you were selling this product, you would want to make sure that you're capturing all of the potential sales that you could be on your Amazon store, right? So in this case, this brand right here, if you do try to jump on a listing like this, they're going to say, this is our company, this is our brand, we want to sell on this listing, but you're going to have to get off this listing. Makes total sense. You would do the exact same thing if you were a brand owner. So that right there is a super easy thing to look at to make sure you're avoiding the items that the brand themselves are already selling. It's not always quite that easy though. So I went ahead and pulled up another example of an item like this where I know that this item is being sold by the brand, but where we check the brand name up here, looks like the brand name is Skin Lab, maybe BSL store. I see that right there as well. But when we look over here, yeah, I guess BSL stands for Beauty Solutions Limited. So it's not quite so blatant, you know, putting 2 and 2 together there. Typically you'd be looking for like Skin Lab as your company name right here. In this case, it was kind of, you know, we could put the context clues together and find that out. But let's say that wasn't there at all. What we can do is we can go down here to the Keepa chart. And number one, the first red flag to me that this item is going to be heavily controlled by the brand owner right here is the number of new sellers over time. Looks like since the last 30 days, or since in the last 90 days, there's only been 2 sellers on this the whole time. The brand themselves is just selling on this listing twice, probably a merchant fulfilled and an FBA listing. That's exactly what's going on right here. So they're selling it merchant fulfilled and they're also selling it FBA. And that's the 2 sellers that's been on this the whole entire time. And when we actually go ahead and dive in here to the data and then go over to buy box statistics, we can see that this brand right here is getting 98% of the sales over the last 365 days. And if we zoom out to the price history, we can see it looks like at one point there were a couple other people trying to hop on it. It looks like it probably was just Amazon, but even when Amazon was on it, they really weren't sharing a lot of sales because this is the brand themselves. They owned this product right here. Not only are they going to be able to kick you off this listing and give you an IP complaint, but also even if you did try to sell this product to begin with, this company is getting 100% of the buy box rotation basically because they own the brand registry, they own the listing. Then you're really not even going to get any sales. It's just going to sit there stagnant, and then they're going to give you an IP complaint just to add insult to injury. So those 2 ways right there are fairly straightforward. It takes a little bit of kind of comparing information, all that kind of stuff. So that's where it kind of brings me into the next kind of software that I use on literally every listing. So if we go ahead and refresh this page right here, this is a North Face listing. This is a brand that notoriously, if you try to sell North Face, you probably will end up getting an IP complaint. And this tool right here called IP Alert is something that I genuinely check on every single listing that I'm selling on Amazon, because basically the way this works is it's a huge database of a bunch of brands that other sellers have complained about in the past. past. They say, hey, I got a complaint from this brand. Oh, go ahead and add it to the database. And so it has become a massive database of a ton of different brands that different Amazon sellers have had trouble with. So really it helps protect me, helps me avoid IP complaints in the first place, because honestly, it's 9,000 times easier to just invest a little bit of money, invest a little bit of time doing these simple, quick checks that we're doing to make sure that we're not going to get an IP complaint, than potentially risking our Amazon account, risking just throwing off our flow, having to take an hour to go deal with an IP complaint, all that kind of stuff. This tool comes in handy because right away when we're pulling up this listing right here, we can see it's giving me a pop-up box that says, hey, this brand is known for IP complaints. I'll say, okay. And then after that, I'm allowed to scroll through the listing and see what's going on here. And just in case I forget, it goes ahead and embeds this little siren right here on every listing. So if we go ahead and look back at a brand like this brand was actually marked green on here, but it's important to be able to combine a ton of these different methods to make sure that when you combine them all together, your Amazon account is going to stay safe. Because when we look at a product like this, we just talked about it, there's probably going to lead to an IP complaint, but it wasn't on here. So we need to think about that. But in this case, you know, we're thinking about North Face. We look at this, North Face isn't on it. There's only a couple sellers on it. Seems like it could be worth it. None of these sellers are North Face themselves. Like if we scroll over it here with SellerAmp, none of these sellers are the North Face. So let's say you found it for 30 bucks. You're like, okay, I'm going to make some pretty decent profit on this. I'll go ahead and buy it, send it in, but you would have ended up with an IP complaint very quickly. And there really isn't a ton of warning signs on this listing. If you know what to look for on this keeper chart, you'll kind of be able to pick it up, but having IP alert kind of just helps me mindlessly make that decision. So if you did want to go ahead and check out IP alert, like I said, I check it on every single product I check. I wouldn't be mentioning these kind of things. For products that I don't use, there is a code below me that'll save you $30 on your subscription for IP alert. And the thing I liked about it is it's a lifetime license. So I'm not having to buy a monthly subscription over and over again, it's just a one-time charge, and I'm going to be super safe in the future. So let's go ahead and jump into the next method here. This right here, again, this is another brand where if I was outsourcing on IP alert, it would have said, hey, don't sell this product. It's on our database. You don't want to sell this product. You're probably going to get an IP complaint. But let's say I didn't know that. One other thing we can check for in the keeper charts here, if you can kind of see it down here on the new offer count, every now and then you'll notice that the new sellers kind of drops off a cliff. So whenever you see a cliff in the number of new sellers, so for example, this one right here, it's kind of the most aggressive example I saw. We went from 9 sellers instantly down to 7 and then very quickly down to 6. And there's even some more aggressive examples out there. Naturally, as I was putting stuff together for this video, I couldn't find an example that really fit exactly what I was looking for. But if you come across a listing and you see cliffs in the number of new sellers, that shows me that the brand themselves, they went in, they looked at one of the listings that they're in control of, and then they went ahead and booted off all the unauthorized sellers. Like right here, there was probably at least 2 unauthorized sellers, probably 3, that guy right there, probably got IP complaints. So don't let that be you. So when we're talking about cliffs on an item, in this case, we can see like it's instantly just going at a moment's notice, the number of sellers is dropping very, very rapidly. But just because the number of new sellers is dropping doesn't always mean it's a bad thing. In fact, it can be a pretty good thing. A lot of times you'd want the number of new sellers to be going down. It decreases your competition, all that kind of stuff. So the way we would kind of compare that to a product that is not an IP complaining brand, here's this Magic Mixies. This was a super popular toy. This was kind of the item for Q4 this year. So when we go ahead and zoom out to the all view right here, we can see over here on this keeper chart, kind of something similar to what we just talked about, right? Number of sellers went way up and then very quickly the number of new sellers dropped, but there's no cliff here, right? So I'll kind of go ahead and show you what I mean here. So if you look at a listing like this, just instantly drops down right there. If we look at a listing like this, it's going to be a quick decline, but we're going to be able to see every time these sales actually do happen. So we can see right here where it goes from 101 to 98 to 96 to 97, actually 91, 86. It's just gradually declining. You know, it looks like we're getting really close to Christmas here as we're looking here. So like December 16th, December 19th, the 22nd, this is absolute peak toy buying season. All these parents are in a panic buying these toys, prime shipping, trying to get them there by Christmas. So it makes sense that the number of new sellers would be dropping very, very quickly. But this quick drop in sellers doesn't necessarily tell me that this is an IP complaining brand, because number one, the sales rank is going down very, very quickly. So we can see the sales rank here was like 4,000, which 4,000 rank in toys during Q4. That product is selling a ton of times. And especially on an item like this is going to be full of a bunch of newer sellers. They probably went out to Walmart and probably bought 5 units, maybe 10, 20 units, something like that. And on a product like this, those 10, 20 units are not going to last very long at all. So that explains why the number of new sellers dropped so quickly here. That Q4 demand, ton of new sellers in here with not a lot of stock. They came in here and you can see that gradual slow decline in new sellers here, which is very different from when we can see on an IP complaining brand. You might see a cliff in the number of new sellers where they just bulk sent out IP complaints and everyone just got kicked off the listing immediately. So even after you do use all of those strategies to avoid IP complaints, it is still very likely that you will end up receiving IP complaints on your account, whether you might be the guinea pig for a brand on IP Alert. That's happened to me where I was selling a brand that wasn't already on there. I got the IP complaint, went ahead and submitted it, and now it's on IP Alert, but I did end up being the guinea pig. Like I said, it is a database tool, so it's really important to be able to combine a ton of different methods, but it's only natural that you are going to get a couple IP complaints. So let's talk about how to deal with it once you actually do get those. So your first option, and probably your easiest option sometimes, is not even dealing with Amazon. A lot of times you can actually just go ahead and email the brand and request that that brand goes ahead and removes your IP complaint, maybe explain the situation a little bit, let them know where you're sourcing your inventory from, let them know that you'll hop off the listing. They just want to know that the sellers on those listings are selling legitimate products. A lot of times the reason they're filing IP complaints is because they're worried about counterfeit sellers selling products that's going to damage their brands. So a lot of times these brands are kind of sympathetic, especially towards small businesses, where you go ahead, explain the situation, let them know that you're not some counterfeit seller, you're not making it in a factory, have bad intentions, you're just trying to sell their products, provide customers good service. And a lot of times that's been able to remove my IP complaints. I've had 1 or 2 complaints where I emailed the brand, said, hey, can we clear this up? Is there anything we can do? And they just did it for me. That's kind of the best case scenario, and it's really low effort when that is the case. But a lot of times the brands won't even respond to you, or they'll get a little bit more hostile if you try to email them. So that's where appealing the IP complaint within Amazon systems is going to come into play big time. So I would really recommend, while you've also emailed the brand, go ahead and hop into the back end of your seller account, and you're going to be able to directly appeal that decision for any IP complaints you do get. So within your Amazon seller account, you'll want to go to the account health section of your dashboard. There should be a little bit of a box that says suspected intellectual property complaints, something like that. You'll want to click on that and then click the button that says appeal. And then once you do appeal that decision, you're going to want to make sure you're doing a couple things as you're sourcing your inventory to make sure that your invoices or receipts are going to work. So as part of that appeal process, the first thing you're going to want to do is just write out a simple plan of action. Whenever you do any appeals in the back end of your system within Amazon, there's typically going to be a couple questions that they are going to ask within that process. Mainly, they just want to know why it happened, what happened, and then they also want to know how you're going to improve in the future to make sure that you don't receive any more IP complaints or end up selling brands that you're not supposed to sell. And then along with that plan of action that you're going to go ahead and write, you're also going to want to include the receipts or any invoices that you do have for those products that you bought. And then this is where the kind of real magic comes into play. I know a lot of people are out there saying that if you get IP complaints as an arbitrage seller, you're screwed, you can't do anything about it, but that's actually not true at all. I've been able to beat many IP complaints within my Amazon business. And the key to doing this is making sure that when you're buying inventory, make sure your billing address 100% matches all the information that's on your Amazon seller account. That's going to help Amazon see those receipts and all that kind of stuff as a lot more legitimate because it's billing to your business address. They want to see that that address on your account is specifically linked to where you bought legitimate authorized merchandise, because if that billing address and this shipping address is completely different than whatever's on your seller account, they're going to have no idea how to know whether or not you did buy those items legitimately, or if you did, just give them a fake receipt or a receipt somebody else used, and then you actually went ahead and shipped all the counterfeit stuff to your business address because it wasn't actually related to the invoice or your receipt at all. So make sure when you're buying inventory that whatever billing address you're using 100% matches what's on your Amazon seller account. So while you're appealing, make sure you also go ahead and upload those receipts or invoices that you do have with the billing address matched, and then also attach your plan of action, and make sure you've also emailed the brand by now as well. Which, by the way, if you're not sure where to start on writing an email to that brand to get the IP complaint removed, or you're not sure how to write a plan of action, I actually went ahead and put the exact email that I send and the exact templated response that I give Amazon for my plan of action for my IP complaints. I went ahead and put both of those documents within the FBA roadmap. So if you're a member of the FBA roadmap, go ahead and check that out. But if you're interested in becoming a member of the FBA roadmap, that's just one very small part of the complete program we put together to help you guys be successful with Amazon arbitrage. So the link is going to be below in the description for that. It comes with a 2-week money back guarantee. We've seen a ton of success out of there. And that one resource that's in the FBA roadmap that'll help you navigate those IP complaints and all that kind of stuff is going to be a big help to your business to help you save time and money. And if you do end up with an IP complaint, you go through that whole process and they still don't end up liking it, make sure you take into account whatever feedback they gave you the first time. Sometimes they'll give you a specific reason for why they didn't like your plan of action or why they didn't like your receipts or invoices. So make sure you do address that. And after reviewing all the information, if you think that you're still on the right and Amazon's wrong, I know a lot of times I've had to submit the exact same invoice 3 or 4 times until it actually does go ahead and work. Similar things can happen with IP complaints. So if that does happen, just try resubmitting, assuming you know all the information is correct. So I hope you guys got a ton of value out of today's video. If you did, please feel free to add some value to my business and hit that subscribe button down below. Really appreciate that. If you have any questions, comments, anything like that, I'm always happy to answer those down below as well. But I really appreciate you guys watching, and I will see you next time.